new guest, Chef Antonio from Hell's Kitchen Season 20. How you doing, bro?
Great, great. Excited to be here.
Good, man. Man, this is cool. I mean, another Hell's Kitchen chef coming on the show, man. I'm feeling good about this.
Yes, yeah. No, it's a crazy thing, man. It's so crazy to see all
Yeah,
this has happened.
yeah, small way. So, have you ever spoken to Chef Declan?
So I have when I first started. It was really cool. The whole like Hell's Kitchen community kind of comes together. And so when they first announced that everyone was coming on the show, they actually Declan reached out to me, Mary Lou reached out to me, Drew reached out to me. So it was kind of cool just to kind of see like how everyone's like a real like community.
Oh
So
wow, that's actually really cool to see that you guys still keep in touch with everything. I mean, to think that a show is bringing such cool creative chefs together. I mean, obviously you guys are good enough to get the attention of Gordon fucking Ramsay. I mean, what's it like? I was thinking, you think about that. You guys are getting the attention of, I think, the greatest chef ever. So, how did you react when you got that information that hey, you're going to be on this show?
honestly, it was just surreal. I mean, everything was so surreal at that point. The way it kind of happened was that I had gotten a message on Facebook, and it was like, hey, we've been looking at your profiles, we've been looking at things you've done, we've looked at like your restaurant, and we think that you could be on the show. And it was like, nah, you're lying. Like, that's not true. Like, this is like weird. And they're like, oh, we're going to fly you out and we'll see how this all happens. I'm like, dude, I'm going to get kidnapped. Like, this ain't real. There's no way. And so then like, it ends up happening. And then next thing I know, like I'm standing there and I see Chef Ramsay. I'm like, oh, this is all real. All right, then. Well, cool. I'm here.
Just absolutely surreal. I could only imagine meeting. Now, has he been one of your, like, is he an idol to you when you were starting out, or?
Definitely. No, I mean, the guy is just like, I think to me, there's like probably three main idols that I have in the kitchen. And that's Ramsay, that's Bourdain, and then that was David Chang. And so I like all three of them because they approach things so differently in how, this like, there's Ramsay who has this like, he was Marco Pierre White's mentoree. And so you have this guy that comes from like this like white fire, like craziness. Then you have somebody like Bourdain, who's more of like the laid back, just like the classic like kitchen guy. Then you have someone like David Chang, who's like trying to like change the way that things happen. And so I like having those kind of three as like my mentors that just are all masters in their own way of doing things. And so being able to be with him and see that side of things, like that whole just pound for pound, like excellence was so crazy to be with Chef Ramsay for that.
So really, it's like, you're obviously an established chef, for, you said, the restaurant and stuff like that. What got you into cooking?
So my grandma and my mom both worked in the culinary field when I was younger. So my mom was a catering director for a hotel in Montana. And so when I was like probably 5 or 6 years old, I would go and help her with serve outs. And so basically what you'd do is we'd go back there and you'd have the chef and you'd have a bunch of people lined up. And then I was a little kid, like plate and garnish. So I'd like put like, a little sprinkle of something at the end of the whole plate. And, you're moving out 300-400 plates. And even being a little kid, like it was just so cool to see how like there was such I don't even know how to describe it. Just more of like it felt like home. I mean, I guess is the best way I can say it. And so from being that, and then my grandma was a prep cook and a waitress at an Italian restaurant in Montana. And so when I was little, I would go up there with her and she'd pick me up from school and we'd go there and I'd be like lighting candles and like putting pepper shakers out, like little stuff like that. And just all the whole, like the smells and the sounds and just like the way that everything worked within the food industry just seemed like something that was the way that I wanted to do things. And then ended up moving when I was like 9 to San Antonio, where my dad's from. So came here with him, and my whole family on that side of things cooks. Everybody cooks. So my two uncles own pizza places in here in San Antonio, and just kind of being in that environment, saying that, okay, well, when I was little, this is what felt like home. Now that I'm kind of growing up, this feels like home. And I ended up doing some high school stuff where like they had these like cooking competitions. And so I ended up like placing top 10 for like teen chefs in Texas when I was, 17.
Wow.
Going like there. Yeah. And it was so at that point I was like, okay, well, maybe I can make a career out of this. And so I just started looking at like the best way to do this. And it always felt like something that I wanted to do and that like maybe I needed to do. And then once I kind of realized that I was like good, so to speak, like I actually could do something with it, I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me see what the best way to do this was. And from there, I got blessed with how everything kind of broke down, because going from the high school competitions like got me in touch with people from Marriott, and then people from Marriott got me in touch with people from the Ritz-Carlton, and then the people from the Ritz-Carlton got me in touch with like Morimoto and Charlie Palmer and Macromina. And I was there when all those guys were doing these like different events that were at the hotel. And then I just got to be in the, the presence of all these guys being on like their teams, like prep teams. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, I got to go to CIA. So then being at Culinary Institute of America, it's like, okay, well, here, down here. Then that put me in touch with the Spurs. And then it's like everything just kind of, for some reason, I don't know if it's just the luck of the draw or what, or just blessings that happen. And, here I am. So it's just crazy to see, being a 5-year-old on a line to then here right now talking about it is just, it's nuts.
Well, I mean, you think about it, bro. I mean, all of these people that are some of the chefs that I've seen on TV and talked to, a lot of them say it started with family. It started with you were raised around the family, and then, for you, like you said, you found comfort in this. This is something that's always been there for you, and you're good at it. It's obviously, people say, you said luck. Okay, to a degree, there's luck, but at the same time, you're obviously an insanely skilled chef who is, winning competitions when you were younger. And again, going back to it, you got an invitation from Gordon Ramsay. There's so many things that you have around you as a chef that it just it's weird to think about how some things are just pushed onto people. It's like, you're great at this and you find a passion in this. That's so cool to think about. Somebody who started young with liking something, and now you have the opportunity. And I'm assuming, obviously you're still cooking at this age. You have this opportunity to just keep succeeding. And obviously, so far in the competition, everybody's you're doing great, and I love it. Me and my girlfriend are watching this show religiously, man.
I appreciate it. No, it's cool. I mean, it's really cool to see. It's amazing to. Like you said, just to be able to do this now, it's weird being like that, the kid that like finally was like, okay, well, hey, I was going to do this and now I'm doing it. And I love it, but I can't, I don't know, it's so weird. It doesn't ever feel like a job. And I guess that's kind of the best thing to say is that people, I've always heard that when I was little, it's like when you find your job, it's never going to feel like a job. Yeah. And it's like, now this is so fun. Like everything that I'm doing is just fun every day. And so it's so cool to see.
That's what I love. So with being on the show, how is it when you first got on and you heard the criticisms from Gordon? I don't want to just talk about the Hell's Kitchen thing, but we're on the topic. So I want to know, what is it like because obviously everybody knows Gordon is very, harsh in some ways, but Chef Declan had he said that, listen, he's just there to make you the better chef. So how did you react when you first, got some of his criticisms?
I took it. I mean, just like anything else, I kind of see chef as like a coach, like a football coach. I played sports my whole life, and I'm so used to that kind of like that level of criticism where it's like, a little more hard, a little more in depth, but it's challenging, and it's challenging for a reason. And honestly, I mean, his criticisms weren't. I took every single one of them and took them to heart and changed. That wasn't the hard part for me. The whole hard part for me was just being around the cameras and the mics and everything else. Like that was more intimidating, more so than Chef. Because I see Chef as like this, obviously he knows exactly what he's talking about, how he's going to do it. And so those criticisms were, they weren't easy to take, but they were definitely something where I was happy to take them. And I knew everything that he said was going to be something that made me better. And if I can be on his level by him telling me exactly how to do that, then I'm going to take every single thing I can. It's like Michael Jordan tells you how to shoot a free throw. You're going to shoot a free throw how you shoot a free throw. That's the way I see it. And that's, that's the whole way, my whole mentality going into this was, this man's the God. You listen exactly how he says it.
Yeah, I like how you said that you played sports. I mean, I played sports my entire life, and I understand the criticisms. And, like they always tell you, they say, listen, I'm not here to, make you quit. I'm yelling at you because I want you to do well. And if you're getting yelled at, listen, he's trying to just make you better. And obviously, I'm assuming, like you said, you made your changes and you did what he said, and look at that, now you're the better chef. That's what's cool about somebody who actually cares about you. Now, what's the constant saying that you said on the show? It's
bounce. Oh no, it's bounce back. I got the shirt on right now. It's that bounce back.
Bro, I love that shirt. But where did that come from? Where does that come from something, or were you just in the moment you were saying it?
Well, so like that was around when this was getting filmed, was around the time that song by Big Sean had come out. And so the whole thing was that like when you're there, you don't have any music, you don't have any books, you don't have anything. And so like Steve and me, both. Like I think they showed it like a couple episodes back where like we were like freestyling in the like I was making a beat and he was freestyling it. So we both are like big like hip hop rap fans, and so like we would just sing it back and forth to each other. And so then eventually like I think we were so repetitive with it that like finally it became our mantra. And so like I kept saying it because I was so tired of losing. And then it just kind of like I don't know. I kind of had a not a great upbringing. Like there's some bad things that happened. And so I've always been the kind of person to like just to really bounce back. Like if there's something bad going on, like I want to look at the positive side of things. Like, and that's the way I keep looking at things, even more so now. Like it's a good mantra to have, period. And so it just kind of worked to the point where it's like, hey, like you can do it. Like we can all bounce back. And then it's like, I started saying it a lot and then it got really annoying, but then everybody else got on. So it's like, now you have Chef saying it. Now you have everybody else saying it. So it's like, okay, well, I guess we're all bouncing back.
Yeah.
And it worked. And like, it's like last episode, you saw Steve bounce back and then Steve bought a shirt too. So I mean, it's like, hey.
Yes, sir. It's leadership, man. It's leadership. Yeah, that's what people don't like. And I've noticed this, in anything that I've done, because, you have that, I could see you have the same thing, that natural leadership. Listen, people don't like the first person who's going to say, okay, guys, we need to go harder. We need to go harder. Nobody's going to like that at first, but if you keep doing it and you prove it, and you're showing that, hey, guys, I'm going to go harder with you. I'm not just going to tell you that. You're doing that, and then all of a sudden, okay, yeah, it's picking up. All right, we're getting this, boys. We're getting this. We got this. We're going to win this. I love that, man. I love that attitude.
No, it is, and that's the thing. Like, I've always been a little bit like you said, it's natural leadership. Being a part of sports, being a part of things, it's like the more you're exposed to things that are challenging, the better you can grow as a person. And so I always try to take those challenges like head on. And so it's kind of interesting to see it, like watching it now, like going back and seeing this first episode, I was like, man, I really was a little too forthcoming with it all. But at the same time, it's like you say, it's like I'm not saying it to be like, I was never trying to be a dick. I was always just trying to be like, it's time to go. Like, I want to go with y'all. Like, there were so many things where I just was like, we all have to move forward. Like, we have to do this stuff. And thank God that we did. I mean, we went on that winning streak. Well, I mean, when I switched teams, we did. But
yeah, of course.
Hey, so it's cool to see. It's nice to have people around. That's the other thing too with being, especially being a HK, is just having every single person there is so good. It's like playing on an all-star team. And so it's so weird to be around all that, but then having to like at the same time measure each other's skill level because somebody has to go home. So it's just such a weird combination of things where it's like, I'm so blessed to be around all these individuals, but at the same time, it's like, we're still in a competition.
Oh yeah.
So.
That must be a fine line to walk across. I mean, you on one hand, you want everybody on your team to do well. 'Cause the team does well, you do well. But you also want to be the person that's doing, you want to be the person who he's saying, all right, good job. You're really leading this team. And then that's what I always found was interesting when I watch Hell's Kitchen is, people, it's hard to be a leader when everyone's trying to be a leader. So
exactly,
like you said, you're playing on the all-star team. Every single person on there has the goal of winning. How did you handle, did you make, are you friends with, are these people? Are you,
Yes. Still, no, we I think, which was kind of weird to see our season, it's funny watching it back now because we never really had any drama. Like, I remember growing up and watching all these shows where you have these guys cutthroat, yelling at each other and going off at each other.
Yeah.
And there was never, I think the biggest drama that y'all saw was the whole Josie and Bryn thing. And even that really wasn't that big a drama. This is some high school, politics type crap. But there was never, no one was really, we were all still friends. All of us are still talking to each other. None of us have any ill will or any bad feelings towards each other. And it's so cool to see because I think being a little bit younger comes with that. We're not as, jaded, so to speak, with having being pounded so much. And so I think we all really wanted to succeed together. And I think that was probably the hardest part about this whole season is that we all really did care for each other. And we still do. We had me and Emily on Monday. We did a thing at the restaurant. We did a little watch party. So, and then I'm going to go with Megan on this Monday. So we all really like each other. There was never, it was like you said, it's a fine line to walk, but I think we did it pretty well. I don't think there was any, I'm trying to think back. I don't think anyone really has any ill will at all. So I think that's a good thing to have from the, yeah.
That's great, man. Because, you guys are all amazing chefs. And like you said, you look at the old past episodes, everyone was kind of cutthroat. Nobody really knew what was going on with the show because it was so young. But then I think this season is awesome with the young people because in other seasons when you have, younger people and older people, the older people, even though they don't want to, most of the ones that I've seen when they were like more experienced would say like, well, I mean, you like they'd go up to the block and they go up to the elimination thing. They'd be like, well, hey, she's less experienced than me. Well, now you guys are all the same age. You're on the same playing field. You can't pull that bullshit. And it's at the same time, you can say, all right, we're all the same age. We can grow together. Even whatever happens on the show, and we can get together and we can build each other up. Like you said, you're going out and meeting with old co-stars, and you guys are building each other up.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Is that was the whole point. Like we kind of all, I think once we got to top 10, we were all sitting there, and all of us were like, hey, like you know what? Like we've pretty much like done something really cool here. And I think all of us had to like think about that for a second. We're like, we're top 10 in Hell's Kitchen, and we're all just sitting there around like looking at each other like, oh wow, like cool. Now what? It's like, now what do we do after this? Like, what do we keep like? How are we gonna keep like staying in touch, and how are we gonna keep trying to like make things work? And no matter who wins, like let's all still try to like keep in touch and keep rolling. And like it was just so cool to like sit back and just realize that like all of us together. And I think even more so now, like seeing it again, all of us are like, man, like this is so cool. Like it's just it's so weird to be so young with all of us together and just kind of trying to figure it out as we go. I mean, I'm still growing up. I mean, and so like all of us are still like just kind of trying to grow up with all of this stuff still happening. And so it's so nuts to be, this, at least it's happening to all of us together. So that's kind of so cool.
I mean, how old was the oldest member? How old was the oldest member? Were you guys?
I think it was me and, I think me and Steve were the oldest, and we were 23 at that point.
Yeah, bro. So, 24. Like we're all like super young and all that shit. So I mean that's cool to look at that, and you see people like my age, and you see how successful people can be our age. It gives like I know some people look at it like, oh wow, well, look where they are and look where I'm at. No, this brings me motivation, man. It's like these guys are killing it at our age. It's there. You can do it, man. It's possible. It's right there for you guys. Like, oh, that's awesome, man. But what was I trying to say? What's it like living with, your team? Like you're living basically at your job. Like you're working and you're living with your coworkers. What's that like? Does that impact the kitchen at all? Does it help? Does it make it worse?
I think if things are going good, it helps out. If things are going bad, it's definitely a detriment.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think the hardest part about the whole thing was the dorms only had 3 bathrooms and 2 showers. So that kind of got things weird. And then it's all like co-ed. So that was even weirder on top of all that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, we were all, I think that's the blessing of the whole show, is that we were all just so laid back. There was never anybody who was trying to be a hothead or anything like that. So living with your team, we were just I think all of us got really close that way. And there was never any like loners. Like I think like, you can watch some of the other shows and some people are like trying to be alone by themselves. And like all of us were at the same point every night. Like we would grab a beer, we'd sit down and we'd talk about what happened, and then we kind of move forward from there. And it was just a new day. Every single week on the show was just, for all of us, was like, okay, what are we gonna do better tomorrow? What are we gonna do better tomorrow? Like it wasn't red team, wasn't blue team. We were all sitting together and we're like, hey, that kind of sucked. That was really cool. How'd you do that? Okay, how do I do that? Like, what'd you learn there? Okay, what'd you learn about that? And so we're just all sitting there having a powwow like every single night. And so it was cool to really have the development as people and then as cooks together, just to have all these different, because all of us are so vastly different too. I mean, everybody on the show, there's not a single person that's similar. Like we're all so different. And so living with that every night and then competing the same way every night and then working the same way every day, I think it really built us up as humans and as chefs. So, I mean, I think it was a beautiful thing, honestly.
Do you think that comes with, the age group that you guys are in? Do you think the more compatibility, more compassion, I'm not trying to say older people can't be compassionate, but do you think it's more towards your age group? It seems like everybody works together very well. Obviously the show, makes some things look a little worse than they are, but from what you're telling me, it seems like everybody got along. And at the end of the day, you guys made each other better. Like you said, all right, how do I do this? How'd you do this? What made you? And I saw that during the show too a lot. Other people are struggling on stations, and all right, I'm going to come over. I'm going to help you out. All right, I got you, man. All right. So do you think that has to do with your age?
I think so. And I think just in this industry in general, I think this industry doesn't necessarily attract the most like stable people, so to speak. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where the majority of the time, if you're in the kitchen, like you're probably in the kitchen because of, things that I think it's like I forget if it's like masochist or sadistic, like being able to take like the torture, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I think that mentality alone kind of helps you be a little bit, you're either like extremely standoffish or you're extremely like moldable. And so I think a lot of us came from like broken families, and a lot of us came from just like some bad experiences. And so I think that age with those experiences, and so like you grow up so fast when things like that happen to you. And I think that was the majority of us on the show. And so all of us just kind of had that like moldability, and I don't think all of us weren't really afraid to be more vulnerable with each other either. So I think that vulnerability and that moldability, the way to transform, I think it does kind of come with being that younger age of being more open to things, not being so stuck in your ways, not being so like trying to be cutthroat and trying to like bully. It was more of like, hey, like, let's all be here and let's figure out how to do it together. How do we all make this easier on ourselves? Because no one wanted to have it harder than it already was,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. So as somebody who's a young chef, before the show, obviously you were a great chef before the show. And how did you work in the kitchen? Did you have respect in the kitchen from others, or was it more like, okay, how did you earn respect, I guess?
So honestly, I got really lucky and very unlucky at the same time, because when I was 19, I ran my first hotel. So when I was a 19-year-old, I was an executive chef of a hotel. I was a 350 room property. Jesus. And my culinary director, Chef Paul Gibbs, he was an older guy. He comes from that same Ramsay old school, like that hot cold type teachings. And so he taught me a way of doing things where it was like, you don't tell people what to do, you do it, and like they'll either catch on or they don't. And that's the way you earn your respect, is like showing the exact example of what you want, and every single day showing that to people. And I think sometimes even, older generations, they kind of like do what I say, not what I do. And his whole mentality was like, I'm going to do what I do. And then you'll happily do what I say because you see me doing what I do. And so from that moment on, like it was hard to learn that, like just kind of going to work every day and being exactly perfect, and then having that extra workload and everything else, but at the same time, like trying to be as perfect as possible. But that kind of thing, I think really helped me move on, because I went from hotels and I ended up going to restaurants. And I was here in New Braunfels at a restaurant, and I was cooking with, 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds, and having a 21-year-old kid in the kitchen was definitely not, having him be the boss was a little weird for a lot of people. But, I try to I want to show you that I can be, a leader. I don't want to like tell you. And so that was always my thing. Is like, if I'm going to be working 100 hours a week just to show you that I'm capable of being the boss, then I'm going to do that. And then if you want to be on board with me, I'm going to take you on the ship. Like we're going to roll together. But that's my whole mentality even more so now, is like even go back to the show, like we're a team. We're going to either win as a team, we're going to lose as a team. But at least like if I'm grinding hard, and you can see that even your boss is grinding hard, and that you can see from the dishwasher to the executive chef, everyone in this kitchen's grinding hard, it helps. I mean, everyone wants to be a part of something that is worth something. And so when everyone's, giving their blood, sweat, and tears every day from the top to the bottom, I think that really shows some camaraderie as a whole cohesive unit. And I think that's the thing that really helps, that's helped me as being a young executive. So I think that's the thing that I still try to pull forward every day, is like, no matter what position you are, no matter from top to bottom, like we're here to grind, and period. If you're not here to grind, then get the hell out. But
oh yeah, you definitely radiate that energy. You definitely radiate the I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm better than you. I'm here to see, just like, in the way Gordon does. I'm here to, get the best from you. I'm not trying to say that, hey, I'm better than you. I want you to work well in this kitchen with me in this profession, so we can get the best result, and then we can, move on to a higher, place in this industry. So how is it, when you're working in a kitchen and you got all the chaos going around you, how do you stabilize yourself and like come back? Because just from the show, I see you have cameras around you, you have the people running back and forth. How do you make yourself bring like to the center, or are you just always focused? Do you ever like scramble a little bit?
No, from a young age I was diagnosed with ADD, and so like my mind just works better in those chaotic movements. Like I don't know how to explain it, but I thrive off of that chaos. Like it's when honestly, like even at the restaurant now, like when we have slower days is when I mess up the most. It's like when we are like pounded and having tickets throughout the whole room and everything's chaotic and everything's moving. That's when I'm at my best. It's when we're slow and like things are finally starting to slow down is when it doesn't, I don't know, it's weird to me, but I thrive in that chaos. And it's something that I feel comfort in having so many things going on. But like, even I think once I get too chaotic though, the only thing that really helps me is I had a chef tell me one time that's like, even when you're at that moment, like you have no time not to clean. And so it was like, even if you're getting pounded, like I still try to figure out ways just to clean my station a little bit. And like just having that little bit of like clarity from a little 2-foot station is like enough for me to, I really don't say it too much on the show, but like I was always like walking around scrubbing a little bit, even when we were getting, pounded for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to like, just stabilize yourself a little bit. And I think that was just having things in the right set place. And it's the mentality of mise en place, just having the right things at the right place and having a little bit of cleanliness to keep moving forward is even throughout all the chaos is just the way that I kind of help myself from that. But I love that chaos so much. Like I said, I found peace in it. It's weird. It's a weird thing, but it works.
I like, yeah, thriving in the chaos is definitely, trust me, I know that personally. Thriving in that chaos is a really great thing, but then when things start to like, all right, well, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? What's the next thing? I need to do something, man. This sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when I do, like, that's what I say. That's when I do the most mistakes is when it finally does slow down. I'm like, oh man, what do I do now? So I guess I'll go start scrubbing.
At least you have that mindset of, I'm going to do the next thing. All right, I'm going to at least scrub these dishes and make sure my station's clean. But I totally understand that, the chaos aspect of, all right, I'm great in this and I love that I'm nonstop, but when it starts to slow down, man, I don't know what to do with my hands. This sucks. Yeah. So with your, besides the show, I don't want to get into anything that hasn't happened, but what are some future endeavors that, that you're looking forward to or that you're working on right now? Is the t-shirt like something that you're trying to brand off?
So I think I'm gonna go. I'm really trying to work with my people and even myself, just looking at different ways to do things in Texas. I think the more that I realize, like being in this industry, just kind of seeing the way that mental health is and the benefits and things like that. Like I think the next big thing I want to really do is I'm looking at trying to get something happen with like a mental health foundation, and I want to use the bounce back as kind of the motto for that mantra of being able to bounce back. And so, there's a lot of addictions rampant, and we don't really have, a lot of people don't have benefits. A lot of people don't have any help, any answers, and so instead of getting help, people just end up drinking or doing more drugs, and it ends up being such a crazy thing. And I get to witness that to every kitchen I go to. I don't think there's been a kitchen that I've been in that doesn't have some sort of addiction aspect to it. And so I definitely wanted to look at trying to be a solution more so than a problem. And that's my next biggest thing is kind of just using the bounce back and keeping this, this logo, this mentality moving and taking it to an actual, like putting some purpose to it and putting some like real purpose to it in the sense of like trying to help people out. And so I've been looking at doing some research, looking at different foundations that'll help, therapists that can come out, you can talk to, the more stats I look into, like cooks or hospitality in general has like, I think it's like the 3rd highest rate of suicide, like the 4th highest rate of addiction out of everything. And you're talking like, I think cops, military, and health workers are the only ones that are above us. It's just so weird that when you have hospitality, cooks, military, and health workers, they're all in the same like top 4 for addiction and suicide and stuff. It's like, it's weird to look at that. A lot of the hospitality workers are getting paid like $10 an hour and have no benefits and no help out. So I just really want to go, and I want to be able to try to help and change that a little bit. And even if it's, something small, at least it helps, 10 people, 20 people, but I think it's better than helping nobody.
No, yeah, I totally get it, man. I mean, obviously, the podcast name, the Manic Mind podcast. I mean, I'm diagnosed bipolar 1. I was diagnosed like freshman year of college. I was 18 years old. I was losing my mind, man. Coming from that coming from, someone who's been through the demons and been through the really, really rough parts. Thankfully, I didn't get in any, hard drugs, but like, being in college and drinking a lot of alcohol, you really, really feel that heaviness. And I can totally see the industry that you were talking about being up there, because it seems like, I forgot, I think Robin Williams said it. It was the people who are trying to make people laugh are usually the most depressed. And I could relate that to somebody trying to make others feel good, fighting for somebody. You see all these industries that have high suicide rates, high depression rates, high drug rates. They're the ones that are helping people. They're the ones that are putting themselves out there and saying, all right, I'm going to put myself in front of this bad stuff for you, or I'm going to try and please you. And I love that you're trying to make an effort to be a solution, try to help them bounce back. I mean, hearing that right away, I love that. I love that mantra. And mantras are big. My trainer, who I want to get on the show, Mike Wadango, guy's a genius personal trainer, awesome guy. If you guys ever want to get into some personal training stuff, I've mentioned him all the time in this podcast. But one of the things that helped me through mental illness was mantras. It's like you wake up and you tell yourself something every day and you say, all right, I'm awesome. Even when you don't feel good, even when you're feeling like shit, even when you're like, all right, I don't like myself today. I look in the mirror and I'm like, what's wrong with you, man? And then you go, all right, I am great. I am great. I am great. You say it 3 times and all of a sudden you're like, all right, you feel a little bit there. Same thing can be applied with the bounce back thing. It's like, all right,
exactly.
You're feeling bad today. All right, bounce back, man. All right, I broke my diet. Something simple. All right, bounce back, man.
Bounce back.
I love that. That is a great mantra to say to yourself. And I'm all about that. The meditation, but mantras, man, those are huge. If anybody who watches this needs help, and you don't want to, I very much encourage you to seek help. If you when you start your foundation, seek a therapist, psychiatrist, all that stuff. But if you just want to do something for yourself, take advice from us. Do the mantra. Make yourself feel good, man. You're worth something. You're worth something.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I love that. I didn't know that you were getting into the mental health stuff. What made you want to get into that? Besides, like, was it working in the kitchen and seeing how other people acted?
Well, so I don't really talk about it a lot because I'm not like one to, I just don't know. But when I was like, I think I got diagnosed with depression when I was like 13. And so I kind of had some pretty, like I said, I had a rough childhood and some other stuff. And so I didn't really understand what was going on. And so I've been kind of around addiction, like I think I have in my immediate family, not to say any names, but like at least 3 of my immediate family have pretty hardcore addiction problems.
Yeah.
And one of them died from it. And so I've been around addiction. I've been around depression. I've been around mental illness. And my dad was in the military. He was in Iraq and he has PTSD. And so, and he was a cop too. So he had some pretty interesting things happen to him. So I've been around those mental issues my whole life. And so it was really interesting when the show first came out and just kind of seeing how quick people are to judge things. And from there on, I was like, well, you never know what's going on with somebody's life and you never understand, like you can never fully get that. And so like, from there, I'm like, okay, how do I help that? How my biggest thing was, how do I help others that only know how to serve others? And so from there on, like, I just wanted to look at things that, made sense to me and made sense to, I think a lot of people that have issues, especially, the depression from bipolar or anything like that, they don't want to seek help.
No.
And it's almost like a pride thing, or especially like in this day and age, it's not something that should be, it's a sign of strength and it's not a sign of weakness. And I think people don't see that as much as they should. And I think it's just, there's a lot of people that are in the older generation that still are stuck in that like weakness mentality, and it's not. And so I just definitely want to take, my biggest like goal within the foundation is to take away the stigmatization of addiction and as like a disease and things like that. Cause I feel like even calling somebody an addict, like throws away the whole like growth that they can have. Cause it just kind of paints this whole like picture. And I want to be able to help that. I want to be able to help people that have, these, PTSD or depression or anything like that, just from being in these extremely stressful situations. So I've been around it and my whole life. And so like, I just seen that. And then once I just I I got a lot of really like bad feedback from the first couple episodes from the show. And so like seeing that, I was like, well, like people have no idea what goes on in people's minds. And so from there on out, like it just really wanted to spark me into like being, okay, well, let's help everybody with this. Like, I think there's a lot of people that need it. And I think there's a lot of people that won't ask for it. And so if I can just kind of even be very, like under the table about it and really let people just kind of come to me on their own, like I'd really like that to happen.
No, of course. Yeah. I mean, with the veterans thing, there's 2 vets that come on the show. They're actually going to come back on the show. One of them has a foundation called Meduce Deuce. Meduce Deuce stands for 22, which is 22 vets a day commit suicide. And to me, that is just one thing that just really rocks me to my core. And I couldn't imagine the other couple places or categories that you said have high suicide rates. It's too much. And when I've heard people say, Twitter's a rough place. Twitter is a place that I try to avoid sometimes. But they say, well, there's so many foundations. Well, listen, there's never too much help. You need help. I mean, you see all these things that are going on. Why are you just going to say, well, there's too much? There's never too much help, man. These people need all the attention that they can get, because if they don't, nothing's going to change. We need something to change. And like you said, there are older generations that have that, stigmatism of, if you go to therapy, you're weak. I personally know some families that are completely against therapy. And they say, if you go to therapy, you're crazy. You're that's for nut jobs. That's something that needs to stop. That needs to be completely kicked out. Listen, at the end of the day, if somebody's sick, are you going to get the medicine? Yeah, you're not going to, I'm not going to say mental illness is a, complete sickness, but you need the help. You have something, you need to treat it. If you don't treat it, what happens? It gets worse. And with these foundations like Meduce Deuce and your future foundation, you guys are only going to help solve the problem. You're only going to help get these people better. And I totally agree with the addict comment. Just calling somebody an addict is kind of messed up. I mean, you don't want these people to feel like garbage about themselves. You want them to feel better. It's just like a lot of portrayals in TV. You see, that person, you still see it in TV. Oh, that person's depressed. Oh, they're going to jump off a bridge. Depression isn't always just, hey, I'm going to jump off a bridge. Depression sometimes is, hey, I woke up. I don't want to get out of bed.
Yep.
I really respect that, man. I did not know that you were that involved in the mental illness game, I guess. That's so respectable and commendable to say that somebody in your situation who is in culinary, who's a chef, who is on TV, who's a celebrity chef at this point, man, I mean, that's so respectable. I love that. I really, as one mentally ill person, I really love that. I can't say that enough. I'm flustered because I can't believe, I was not expecting that. I couldn't expect that, man.
I appreciate it. No, I've been trying to I really wanted to, at this point, like I just been kind of slowly building it and everything. And so I was, that's kind of where the whole bounce back, like just getting the shirts printed and everything like that is where it really started to build. And I really wanted I didn't want to make something that didn't have a purpose. And so like, I just been kind of slowly trying to build it up, and it's been so hard because I still work 70 hours a week and I still are doing all these stuff. And it's been slowly just trying to get it working. And, I think I'm slowly starting to get to the point where I can start kind of announcing it slowly but surely. And so it's nice that I can talk to you about it, because I've been waiting to really actually make a actual statement and kind of speak it into existence. So.
Yeah, man, that's what we're here for. I'm here to get to know you. I don't want to just know the chef part, dude. I want to get to know you as a person. That's what's cool. So, you grew up, where did you say you grew up? You moved to Texas as a kid?
Mm-hmm. So I spent like the first 9-10 years of my life in Montana. And then my whole dad's family is from San Antonio. My mom's family is from Montana. And so I went with my dad when I was 9 or 10 and moved back here to San Antonio, and I've been here since. And so, and so it's just kind of cool to see the big difference from going to a town with 40,000 people to being in a 2.7 million people place. And just kind of growing up and being surrounded by a completely different ethnic community, and then going back and really embracing my Hispanic roots and being around, my grandpa's from Jalisco and all my uncles are from the south side of San Antonio. And I got to live on the south side of San Antonio and just kind of be around the same house a block away from the same house my dad grew up in.
Did the food impact you from the two different places?
Definitely. No. And I think the thing that I've kind of realized is like Montana is such an agriculture community, and everything is derived around the respect for the nature, the respect for how it's grown, you know, the respect for the deer that you hunt, the respect for the fish that you fish. Like you gain these respects for like how things, I think it even goes back to like Native American principles, like you only kill what you eat and you really respect the animal for what it's giving you. And so like that I think set something for me for the respect of the ingredients that I work with on a daily basis. And seeing, you know, the way that there's a lot of mass production of things and really having that true, I mean, people in Montana live legitimately farm to table. Like I feel like it's a catchy thing now that people are like, oh, well, I have a farm to table restaurant. It's like the majority of small communities live farm to table. That's not something new. Oh, and so I grew up farm to table. I grew up going to farmers markets every Sunday. I grew up going and getting everything around you. Like everything's small town in Montana. I think we have like one McDonald's and one big Walmart that's it for the town. But other than that, you're getting farmers together. You're going out and getting your own fish. You're going out and hunting a deer that lasts you for 6 months. You know, that's just part of the whole culture. Yeah. And so I grew up in that, and then going from that to Texas. Obviously my dad would cook Mexican food and stuff when I was up in Montana, but I mean, I was immersed fully in it. Going from that to then going to down here in Texas, where it's like, you know, I grew up right off of Southwest Military, which is like kind of the heart of the South Side. So you have like Florida as a military, and you know, you're just in a completely different world, and the food there is just so amazing. I mean, from like lingua, which is like cow tongue, so eating like cow tongue and going and eating sweetbreads and eating tripas, and that's fried cow intestine, and you're getting all these like crazy things. Oh, wow. And so it's just nuts to be a part of like these, like going just new experiences and new everything. So.
Well, I could totally understand what you're talking about with the mass production stuff. God, Declan, when he came on, I asked him, he wanted a beer, and I'm like, all right, here, I got you. You know, I had some shitty Miller. I'm young. I'm poor. I can't buy good beer. So I give him a Miller, and he goes, the fuck is this? This is piss. So I was like, I said, well, my girlfriend told me I should get you a Guinness. And he said, no. He's from Ireland. And he says, if it's not from Ireland, not poured in a proper glass, so down to the detail, I could totally see the same thing with food. If it's not prepared the right way, if it's mass produced, you know, listen, it's not going to be as good as something that's straight, like hunted or something that you know where it came from, the farm to table stuff, man. That must be, at least, and I live in Jersey, so Jersey's kind of good sometimes where you live. Where I live, there's a lot of farms, so thankfully I can, go to a farm or something like that and get the meat that they process, or the meat that they handle and stuff like that. But I could totally see if you're from, more of a city place, you might be getting a lot of mass-produced stuff, and it's not going to taste as good from that, the Montana aspect, man. That Montana aspect. Now, did you, if you had to choose which one, would you rather eat the food from Montana or Texas? What are you choosing?
I'm choosing ingredients from Montana with flavors from Texas. Ooh. I think is what I would choose.
Is that the does the Texas have the bolder flavors and stuff?
Oh, most definitely. No, there's a lot of like I think it's like German, Norwegian, like Lithuanian, like things like that up there. And the flavors are good. Don't get me wrong. Like I love a lot of like the,
of course,
like,
yeah,
that kind of thing. But like it's just nothing. It's nothing compared to just the vast majority of Mexican. I mean, you have like Tex-Mex, and you have like Central Mexico, then you have Coastal Mexico, then you have all these different like just Mexico, and it's I don't even like it's its own food culture in itself, and then you have like this like Mexican food like title, and it doesn't even encompass half the stuff that Mexico can do. I mean, there's just so many things that even like that are popping up more so now that you think of like people, you say Mexican food, like, oh, enchiladas and tacos, and it's like, no, that like there is so much more than that. And you have these like moles, and you have these different salsas and molcajetes and aguachiles and like all these different things that is so like beautiful in flavor, from the acid to the bitterness to the like, I mean, it's just beautiful things. And so I definitely would say that Montana has Texas beat on ingredients by far. I mean, rainbow trout, walleye, different, the mule deer, whitetail deer, elk, moose. I mean, all these fresh, big animals that are just so beautiful and so amazing. But I mean, the flavors down here, you can't touch Mexican flavor.
Yeah.
You really can't.
My girlfriend would love your cooking. She is an app. She's Puerto Rican. She loves Spanish food. Like I am the worst. And Declan, he was giving me looks on this one. I am the worst eater because I always ate. I grew up. We were in hard times growing up at certain points, and I always ate the same thing. I ate we ate pasta with meat sauce. We ate very limited things. So like my taste buds, they're not there. I haven't eaten a lot. I haven't experienced a lot. So now that I'm living, with my girlfriend who likes all the Spanish food, and she's brought in some of the Mexican food as well, I try it, and dude, it is so good. It's so good, man. It's so good. I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, wow. There are definitely some things that I need to open up a little too more because I'm not used to the flavors and stuff, but when you get somebody who can actually cook and use the flavors properly and not just throw them on there, that's such a big difference. Like it really is.
Oh no, that's the craziest thing is that like, so when I was living in Maui for a while, and that's where I kind of got my start. And I was working with Morimoto and working with a lot of like different. I mean, there was so many ethnicities, and like, from Filipinos to Native Hawaiians to Brazilians to Native Mexicans, and they all had these different flavors, and then combine that with Japanese food, and we're making like weird fried rices that come together, and like that's where I got the idea for that steak fried rice that was on the show a couple episodes ago. Was just taking like these different flavors that was something we would do for like family meal. Like we would have all these different things together, and you'd have a Filipino, and you'd have Mexican and a Colombian and a Native Hawaiian, and we're all sitting there like, okay, well, what can we make for family meal? Okay, well, hey, like I made this pork adobo yesterday. Like let's take that from the Filipino. And you have Mexican making some sort of like mole-based sauce, and you have like all these different things coming together, and it's like, holy shit, this is good. It's like, how did that work? And so it's just like, it was crazy, like having all those different, like being around these like really high impactful flavors. And then growing up, like I was not nearly as food educated as I am now. I'm with you. Like my dad and I would make we went through a lot of rough times too. So we were making like ground pork with white rice and rotel and rolling that in a taco and eating it. Or like you said, spaghetti and meat sauce, anything that could feed a family for, a couple dollars. And so like I was used to that. And so, but when we finally did actually like, spend some money and make a good meal, like it put some love in it. And I think that's where it's cool to appreciate that. And I think that's still where my heart comes from when I go and I try to make something. Is, when people spend their money, they're spending their money for an experience. And, even at a mom and pop restaurant where you're spending, $50, which is still a lot of money for a lot of people. You definitely want to be able to make that experience last for people. So that's kind of where my whole mentality is, even more so now. Is like, people are going to pay money to be here. You got to give them something for it. That's how I look at things.
So whenever you make a dish, you're saying you put your heart and soul into it, right?
Every time.
So with what's your favorite dish to cook if you had one, if you could say one?
I think either, I love anything that has some like legitimate love and time in it. Like I love smoking a brisket for 12, 13 hours. I love making like moles that take some time to really like get those flavors together. I love making like Italian sauces. My grandparents are Italian, so I grew up around that, like 12-hour sauce. You're letting the sauce go all day, and you're really like nurturing it as it's growing. I love those dishes. I love things that legitimately make you work, like making pasta, or things that you have to give something to the dish for it to give it back to you. Yeah. And those are my favorite ones to make.
That's awesome. You really do sound very it's odd to, or not odd, but it's very cool to see how I keep relating back to Declan because he's the other Hell's Kitchen chef, but you both have that same. When I make food, I'm putting everything into it. It's not like I'm just giving it out and throwing it out. I want to put passion into this. I want people to know and to hear you say that you like the stuff that takes time, and you really have to keep your eye on it. And if you really gotta put a lot of effort into it. Like I know some people who when they smoke brisket or whatever, they like build like a fire, like a pit or something like that. Like, and they have like a tradition of making it exactly this way, and you have to make it this way. That's so interesting to me because it's cliche to say, but you can taste the effort and love put into that food. You really can. So
exactly.
That makes all the difference in any profession, especially yours, because people are like eating it. They're really feeling all the time and effort you spent putting into mastering a dish.
Yes, sir. No, that's the whole thing. Is like it's just I feel like it's repetition at one point, but then it's just tradition. I think, and that's something that I always love food that has tradition behind it. Because I mean, if it's been around for 100 years, there's a reason it's been around for 100 years.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of the way I approach things. Is just like looking at things, and if it's done a certain way and it's been done that way for 100 years, there's a reason why it's been done that way for 100 years. And so it's like you said, it's cliche to say, but I mean, there's a reason it's still here. There's a reason that these things have lasted so long in the course of history. And I think there's a obligation within especially as cooks nowadays to honor that, to have that sort of homage to things that have stood the test of time. So
well, yeah, just like with that one challenge where it was you had to make it exactly what it says on like the emoji things. It's like, don't change it, man. There's a reason why this works. There's a reason why this tastes the way it does. And I thought that really relates back to it. That's an interesting way. So with being a chef, obviously now you're a celebrity chef, you're on the show, you're doing all this stuff. How do you balance? I heard you say that you work 70 hours a week. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that at all. That I could totally see that from a chef. How do you balance a personal or a social life, or do you even have one at this point because of how you work?
I've never really had a social life, to be honest. I think now, within the last like 6 months, after COVID, I mean, you reevaluate things that are important in your life and try to really make a difference in that. And I think that's what I've done this far. But up until from the time I was 16 until last year, I didn't have a social life. I was working every single time. I missed a lot of family events and a lot of birthdays and things like that for cooking. And so, now I really tried to like take a little bit of a step back. And, if there's a day, like I know for sure I get Mondays. So on Mondays, I try to go see my dad, or I try to go see some family, or I try to do something with that Monday. But social life, I think even like all my friends, I think it's a kind of a thing in culinary where you're friends with the people that you work with, no matter what.
Yeah.
And so, we all hang out a lot, and that's us. Like that's my social group as of right now is the people that I work with. So, they're legitimately a family. But other than that, it's just trying to make the time for things that are important, really prioritize correctly, and go from there.
Of course. Yeah, no, I totally can see that. Like, in anything that you are passionate about, when somebody does find their passion, they seem to put everything they have into that passion. And sometimes you get, a little too caught up in it. I know that. God knows I know that. I'm once I'm in something, I'm black and white. It's either you're all in or you're not. And you do get a benefit. You do get a reward from that. And obviously you're reaping the reward now. You're taking the reward, which is awesome for you. And it's also good to see that, you're still young and you're seeing, okay, well, I still need to slow down. I still need to see my dad. I still need to, get these personal relationships. And I'm assuming, after a long shift, maybe you guys go to like get a drink or something. Like you said after the show, like you guys chilled, you guys had some drinks, you talked about what was going on. That's still social. You still talk to people.
Yeah.
Your friends become your coworkers, or your coworkers become your friends. Opposite of that one.
Well, no, exactly. That's the way it goes. It's like we just, you get done with the shift and you go have a beer or two and talk. And that's, like I said, we become a real family. Like I think, you see those guys more than you see anybody else. You're with them 13, 14 hours a day. So you get used to that. And so that's kind of how we are. And we've been there. But
you like cooking from home? Like, do you
No, I don't cook at home. No, I used to a lot. And I was really in during COVID. I think the only time I've ever cooked from home was during COVID because I had no choice. And so I finally I was so itching. I felt like I just had to do something. And so I was in here doing all kinds of stuff. I was making prep meals for weeks out, and I was making loads of chilies and sauces and putting those in the freezer and waiting for that to come back out. And that was cool because then I still have a surplus of stuff. But other than that, I don't cook at home. I cannot. I can't find it in myself to it's not you get so used to having everything you have in the kitchen, and to doing it at home just doesn't work. But it's almost 1. I will say I gotta go. I do apologize for.
No. This is actually perfect because we're about to finish up right now. But thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to promote? Say anything?
No, just keep a lookout for the Bounce Back Foundation, and thank you so much for having me. And hopefully we can get some cool stuff moving. And I think once I get everything rolling again, if y'all want to, we can talk again and actually have like a full, like in-depth mental health thing. That'd be cool
Yeah,
as hell.
man, I would love to talk to you about that. All right, you go do your thing. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Guys, Chef Antonio, make sure to watch Hell's Kitchen Season 20 Young Guns. This is an amazing show. This guy is an amazing guest. Obviously, so much more in-depth here than what you just see on the show. All right, see you guys next episode. Thank you very much.